The resurrection. When silence became a song again. Seoul no longer had nights, it only had awakenings. After the revolution, nothing was the same. The city that once forced idols into silence now trembled under the weight of voices that refused to kneel. And yet, silence came again. Not from HYBE. Not from the media. But from Jungkook and Taehyung themselves. For weeks there was nothing. No live streams. No leaks. No whispers. The world waited, breath held, as if history itself had paused between beats. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said contracts had been torn apart in secret rooms. Others said governments had stepped in, silencing what corporations could not. Tabloids screamed exile, separation, collapse. But ARMY knew better. They knew silence was never the end. Silence in their story was only a prelude. And then, at dawn in Seoul, everything broke. A screen in Myeongdong lit up without warning. No ads. No logos. Just black, then white letters scrawled like handwriting. "Did you miss us?" The crowd screamed. Phones lifted. And then music. Not Stay Awake. Not The Fire. Not even the raw confession that had shaken the world. This was new. This was rebirth. A piano note, delicate, trembling. Jungkook's voice, low, fractured, as if it had been caged too long. They told me silence was safety. But silence burned louder than screams. Then a pause. A breath. And Taehyung's voice entered, deep, steady, the anchor Jungkook had always searched for. They told me love was dangerous. But danger feels like home with you. The screen cut to shadows, two silhouettes, blurred but unmistakable. Jungkook's hand reached out. Taehyung's followed. Their fingers brushed. And the world collapsed again. No company. No sponsor. No government could hold it back this time. Because love was not leaking anymore. Love was declaring war. Within hours, hashtags drowned headlines. Hashtag resurrection of love. Hashtag no more chains. Hashtag their song Our Rebellion. Paris projected their silhouettes on the Eiffel Tower. Tokyo flooded Shibuya with banners, "Love is not silence." Buenos Aires turned protests into carnivals, singing their names under painted skies. And then the final strike. At midnight, YouTube's algorithm cracked. A nameless channel uploaded a video. No monetization. No titles. Just 4 minutes of grainy footage. A basement. A microphone. A piano again. Jungkook and Taehyung. No makeup. No costumes. Just themselves. The song returned, but now complete. This is not resurrection. This is continuation. Love does not die. It only waits for the right moment to breathe again. The upload vanished after 4 minutes. But 4 minutes was enough. Screenshots spread. Transcripts flooded. Artists in London, graffiti writers in Mexico, dancers in Lagos, all echoed the words. It was no longer about Jungkook and Taehyung. It was about every love that had been silenced, every voice that had been chained, every truth buried alive. That night, Seoul's skyline burned, not with neon, not with ads, but with drone lights forming words across the black sky. Love doesn't need permission. Crowds wept. Reporters whispered. Politicians turned pale. But ARMY roared. In a quiet corner of the city, away from the chaos, Jungkook leaned against a cracked wall, exhausted. Taehyung sat beside him, silent for a moment before whispering. "Do you know what this is?" Jungkook shook his head. Taehyung smiled, eyes tired but alive. "This is resurrection. Not of us. Not of our love. But of every voice they tried to bury." Jungkook closed his eyes, letting the weight of the moment sink in. "Then let them try again," he whispered. "Because love doesn't just rise once. It rises forever." And the world knew. Dodger was the spark. Stay Awake was the flame. The fire was defiance. The confession was truth. The unwritten chapter was survival. The reckoning was the point of no return. The revolution was freedom. But the resurrection. This was eternity. Because love once killed will rise again. And this time, it will never fall. The Exodus. When love walked beyond the walls. The world had seen sparks. It had seen flames, revolutions, even resurrection. But nothing prepared it for what came next. Because resurrection was not enough. Once alive again, love needed to walk, out of shadows, out of cages, out of every wall built to contain it. And so began the exodus. Seoul's silence shattered first. In the heart of Gangnam, a massive billboard went dark at midnight. Then, without warning, it lit up. Not with ads, not with corporate slogans, but with a live feed. A small stage. 2 stools. 2 microphones. And then Jungkook and Taehyung, unmasked, uncovered, unafraid. No company behind them. No permission granted. No script written. Jungkook's voice broke the night first. They called us rebels. They called us reckless. But love doesn't belong to walls. Taehyung followed, his voice deeper, steadier, the echo that turned tremor into earthquake. They tried to bury us. But you can't bury the sky. And tonight, the sky belongs to love. Then came the song. Not leaked. Not stolen. Not hidden. A new hymn, written in defiance, sung in surrender, carved into history. We walked in shadows. But shadows learned our names. We broke their silence. And silence broke its chains. This is no scandal. This is no crime. This is forever. Beyond their time. Crowds gathered in Gangnam, tears staining faces, voices trembling into chants. Within minutes the live stream multiplied, Times Square, Shibuya, Piccadilly, Sao Paulo. Screens across continents broadcast the same moment, 2 men singing not as idols but as witnesses of their own truth. The world cracked. HYBE's threats lost power. Governments faltered. Sponsors fled. But armies stayed. Not just stayed, they marched. From Seoul to Paris, Buenos Aires to Cairo, love walked beyond walls. Protests became festivals. Chants became hymns. Silence, once weaponized, became extinct. And in the chaos, Jungkook turned to Taehyung on that tiny stage, voice shaking not from fear but from awe. Do you see this? They're walking with us. Taehyung's smile was tired but infinite. Love was never ours to keep. It was always theirs to carry. By morning, history had new headlines. The Exodus, when love refused borders. From Seoul to the world, a song that governments could not kill. Beyond idols, beyond scandal, a movement without chains. But for those who witnessed it live, it wasn't news. It was freedom. It was eternity made visible. And that night, as the city finally slept, Jungkook whispered the words that no lawyer, no contract, no empire could erase. Love has no cage. Love has no border. And tonight, love has begun to walk free. Dodger was the spark. Stay awake the flame. The fire defiance. The confession truth. The unwritten chapter survival. The reckoning the point of no return. The revolution freedom. The resurrection eternity. But the Exodus. This was liberation, not in words, not in songs, but in footsteps echoing across the earth. Because love, once unchained, does not stop. It walks. It runs. It crosses every border. And the world finally understood. This was no longer a story. This was humanity reborn. The ascension. When love refused to die. The world thought it had seen everything. The sparks, the fire, the revolution, even the Exodus. But love was not done. Because love, once freed, does not merely walk, it rises. This was the ascension. Seoul's skyline glowed with drone lights spelling words across the heavens. No borders. No chains. No silence. But even as cities roared, Jungkook and Taehyung disappeared again. For weeks, no sight. No sound. Just silence. And yet, the silence was not empty. It was sacred. The world waited not with fear but with faith. Then, at midnight, a single link appeared across every platform. No promotion. No ads. Just 5 words. This is not the end. Millions clicked. The screen faded to black. And then stars. Not graphics, not lights. Real stars recorded under the night sky. And beneath them, 2 figures. Jungkook and Taehyung, standing on a hill, no makeup, no costumes, nothing to separate them from the earth. Jungkook spoke first, his voice trembling but clear. They tried to make us a chapter. But love is not a story that ends. Taehyung's voice followed, deep as the night. They tried to keep us on the ground. But love rises. Always. And then the music began. No piano this time. No microphone. Just their voices raw against the wind. They broke our wings. But we still learned to fly. They buried our names. But the sky remembers us. This is not memory. This is not goodbye. This is ascension. Love will never die. As they sang, the camera pulled back, revealing not just two men, but thousands of fans gathered below the hill, holding lights that turned into constellations. From above, it looked like the Earth itself had become a galaxy. And for the first time, it wasn't Seoul or Paris or New York. It was the whole world stitched together by light. The internet collapsed again. But this time it wasn't chaos. It was peace. No hashtags. No slogans. Just one word whispered across every language, every time zone, every voice. Together. In a quiet moment after, Jungkook leaned against Taehyung's shoulder, his eyes wet, his voice a broken whisper. "Do you think this will last?" Taehyung turned, pressing his forehead lightly against Jungkook's. "It already has. Love doesn't wait for permission to live. It just lives. And now it rises." And in that instant the world knew. Dodger was the spark. Stay awake the flame. The fire defiance. The confession truth. The unwritten chapter survival. The reckoning the point of no return. The revolution freedom. The resurrection eternity. The exodus liberation. But the ascension. This was transcendence. Because love, once unchained, does not merely survive. It rises. It becomes sky. It becomes forever. And the world finally understood. This was no longer history. This was immortality being born.